Welcome to The Explainer. This one is proudly produced by Nonverbals Consulting, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have you with us today. We're going to take something that, well, let's be honest, it might initially sound like a dry academic theory, quality management. But we're transforming it into a dynamic, highly actionable system that you can actually use. Whether you're managing a massive corporate team, running a lean startup, or honestly just trying to optimize your own daily workflow, deeply understanding the mechanics of quality is an absolute game changer.
And having a firm like Nonverbals Consulting backing up our content right out of the gate, that basically guarantees we're diving into top-tier, actionable insights today. Let's get right to it.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at what is a process. Then we'll expand that into production as a system, and finally wrap up with leading quality management.
Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1, what is a process? The foundational unit. So officially, a process is a physical manufacturing action or a virtual service-based operation that produces a specific output. But I want you to pause and really think about this for a second. A process isn't just some noisy assembly line in a giant factory, right? Think about your own day-to-day work. Is your output a physical product or is it a virtual service? Like if you're a physician, your process is taking raw data, symptoms, test results, and outputting a targeted medical diagnosis. If you're in finance, maybe you're processing a complex international bank transfer. Every single one of those actions is a process, and it creates a specific output that can be measured and improved. This distinction is absolutely crucial because when you fail to clearly define your output, whether that's a piece of software, a legal brief, or even a customer service chat, you totally lose the ability to measure its quality. And you know the old saying, what you can't measure, you just can't improve.
And this brilliantly illustrates the whole concept. We have multiple inputs coming together. We're talking tangible raw materials, massive streams of digital data, or honestly, purely human expertise and creative energy. They all enter this central transformation phase, and boom, out comes your final output. It's a wonderfully simple concept on the surface, but it's profoundly important because, well, that central transformation phase is so often treated like a black box. People throw inputs in, cross their fingers, and just hope a good output emerges on the other side. But if you want to actually improve the quality of your output, you've got to look incredibly closely at what's happening inside that transformation bubble. Where are the bottlenecks? Where's the friction? If a bank transfer gets delayed, it's usually not a problem with the input data or the final destination. The breakdown almost always happens inside the transformation process, where quality checks are either way too rigid or just completely missing. Getting a grip on this mechanism is how you truly begin to take control of your results.
Let's move on and see how this builds up into the big picture. Part 2, production as a system, focusing on Deming's ecosystem. Now, Deming's cyclical model of production completely redefines how we look at scale. In the real world, scaling up can initially feel, well, totally chaotic, but it really helps to frame this not as some rigid, straight assembly line, but as a living, breathing ecosystem. It all kicks off as step 1, consumer research. You don't just guess what the market wants, you use real data to drive the initial design. Then in step 2, that design dictates exactly what you need from your suppliers. This is your classic garbage in, garbage out checkpoint. If your suppliers hand over subpar materials or bad data, the entire system is instantly compromised. Next up is step 3, monitored production. This is where those materials are transformed, just like we were talking about a minute ago. But here, they're being carefully and continuously watched for defects. Step 4 is distribution, getting those finished goods or services out into the world. But wait, here is the absolutely vital part of the whole ecosystem. This is literally where mediocre companies fail and great companies thrive. Step 5, consumer feedback. This is the lifeblood of the system. Imagine a software company rolling out an update. They don't just launch it and walk away, right? They actively collect user bug reports, feature requests, and that feedback feeds directly back into step 1 to drive design changes for the very next patch. The cycle begins all over again. It's a continuous, closed loop of learning, adapting, and refining. If you cut off step 5, your ecosystem dies and your product becomes obsolete. Simple as that. Which brings us to our final section, part 3, leading quality management and the human element. When leadership decides it's time to launch a new quality initiative, there's usually 2 ways it goes down, a clumsy, fatigue-inducing way and a respectful, integrative way. Let's talk about the clumsy way first, denigrating the status quo. I mean, we've all seen this happen, right? A new manager comes in, points out literally everything that's wrong, and essentially attacks the current system. This instantly triggers what's perfectly described as initiative fatigue. You can practically hear the collective groan echoing through the conference room. People tune out. Why? Because they have years of their own blood, sweat, and tears invested in building that organization. Telling them their past work is garbage is a guaranteed way to tank morale. On the flip side, the successful approach is highly collaborative. It means genuinely consulting staff, integrating their frontline views, and explicitly respecting those historical investments. You absolutely have to allow the people doing the daily work to guide you. They know what urgently needs changing and, just as importantly, what's actually working and worth keeping.
Now, what's really interesting about this next concept is how it illustrates the teamwork required. Successfully rolling out a quality initiative is like putting together a giant puzzle to form a cohesive, unified direction. Ground-level realities absolutely have to meet top-down vision. If you consult your team and take the deliberate time to integrate their lived experience with the new strategic goals, you prove that you're actually listening. It's not just lip service. Now, are there going to be mismatches between leadership's vision and the staff's reality? Absolutely. Mismatches are inevitable in literally any complex system. But when you foster an environment of candor and teamwork, you can address those misalignments openly. You work together, shave down the rough edges, and eventually the pieces fit. This integrative approach is the secret sauce. It prevents that quiet quitting and subtle sabotage that almost always pop up after forced top-down mandates.
So, what does this all mean for you? Think about how new ideas are rolled out where you work. Are they a collaborative effort that respects the history and the expertise of the staff? Or are they just the next big, exhausting mandate handed down from the top? Does your organization actively listen to its ecosystem and its people, or is it just suffering from chronic initiative fatigue? Honestly, figuring out the true answer to that question is your very first step toward establishing real quality management in the 21st century. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep learning.